believe we should be just about ready then. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. All right, I think we're working. And so I guess what I would need then would be my intro. There it is. Okay, great. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm happy to be here. It's Rufus Opus. I'm excited about today's show. Last week when I did the show, I was very tired. I was very exhausted. It was something that I had done sort of out of the I might have pulled it out of the dark spot at the last minute there. But this week I've spent a little bit more time getting ready, and forgive the tears there. I was preparing for my my show here. Before I go too much further, I'd like to take the time to make the obligatory mentions of my links and my sites. I've got links in the description that go to my sites that help to fund all of this stuff. Hopefully I won't be having to do that for very much longer. If everything goes according to plan, I won't have to be asking for money any more soon. But in the meantime, we do need to keep flights on, and every little bit helps to check out the links in the comments and whatnot, and or I'm sorry, the links in the descriptions, and please help support your local occultists who are doing okay but could probably make a little bit more money and be happier. All right, so that's the money stuff. All right, moving on. Today's show, we are going to continue our pursuit of understanding our experience as if we were part of the manifestation of the all thing. My whole method and approach to things lately has been through Zeus. Zeus the head, Zeus the middle, Zeus the all in all. It is the phrase that comes from the Derveni manuscript. It is where it's our oldest manuscript here in the Western mystery tradition. It goes back to like 450 BC, I think it is. It's a manuscript that is the notes of an initiator's description, sort of like a knowledge lecture of an initiation into the Orphic mystery tradition that is represented by this particular manuscript. It turns out that there are several different types of Orphic initiatory traditions. Different initiatory groups had different theogonies, different explanations for how things started, and different main deities that made up their cosmologies and told the story of transformation. And the Derveni theogony is specifically, it's not quite as excuse me, it's not as focused on Phanes as it is on Zeus. Zeus is the demiurge in this one, and it sort of ends before it gets to the part where Dionysus takes back over in the more traditional Orphic mysteries. Whether or not this particular Orphic cult believed that Dionysus was the one that took over for Zeus afterwards is up for debate. There's really no point to worry about it. Everything that I need to get out of this particular manuscript I get from the phrase Zeus the head, Zeus the middle, Zeus the all in all, and it talks about how Zeus the deity became the demiurge by consuming the symbol of all of creation, potency, and generation in the universe, destroying the universe as it was after he had ruled, after he defeated the Titans and established himself as the king of Olympus. He ruled for a while, and then he became the demiurge by consuming the source of power and destroyed that universe and recreated the universe in his own image. And that's where we live now. And you and I are manifestations. Hey, Adam, how's it going? So you and I are manifestations of this demiurge, right? So everything that exists in this universe now is the demiurge's manifestation of itself. And the Derveni manuscript says that the name of this demiurge is Zeus. And it says that if you want to understand everything, you have to understand that Zeus is everything, okay? And we're going to call it Zeus, but whether its name is Zeus or not doesn't matter. But this demiurge that created the universe in its own image created everything that we think about it in terms of whatever it is we think about it as, right? That's the context that it created for itself. I saw this really cool video the other day that talked about how our are part of the galaxy, right? The energies and forces that manifested this physical universe. It's a very scientific video, right? It comes from a very scientific approach to things. And it's talking about how the universe came into being 4.5 billion years ago, and when it came into being, the forces that manifested eventually led to us being born, right, here on Earth. Life evolved, regardless of whether you think it was created or not. Life expressed itself out of this universe, and this expression of life is intelligent. So in the same way that a tree produces like apples, right? An apple tree produces apples. You know, this universe creates intelligent human beings. It peoples, right? And it was like totally exactly what I believe about this whole Zeus, the all in all thing. It's that the universe creates people because it's a reflection of what it's doing, right? Zeus is manifesting as us. So this Dervani manuscript mystery is that Zeus is the all in all, right? And that it brings about this experience of this creation so that we can experience it. So it can experience itself through us and create itself through us, right? And it's emergent into the moment. It's not separate from everything. The Dervani manuscript says Zeus is the head, the source, the kephale, right? The calf in the sorry, I had some glue stuck to my fingers. In the Hebrew alphabet, calf or kappa in the Greek alphabet, it means head, right? The head, kephale. Zeus, the head, the source, the root. And in the Orphic hymn to Zeus, we call him the Saturnine king, root of all, right? He is the root of everything. It's the source. Everything is made in his image, right? Or according to his will as he expresses it through the other spirits, through the spirits of creation, through the spirits of the demons and angels and planetary powers and elemental powers and all the invisible forces. That's the middle part. But Zeus is the head, right? He's the head. He is the source of the will that expresses itself through us, the people, the personalities, all the invisible things that turn the invisible into the material world. That's like planetary gods or archangels or Goetia spirits or spirits of the land, spirits of the rivers, anything that's in charge of materializing a spiritual essence, right? Human beings who write down their grocery list, right? That's an invisible thing that they've made to materialize. They've created a grocery list out of pure thought and handwriting, right? They've materialized something. So human beings are part of this middle part that causes something to materialize. We are the spirits, the essence that materializes. And this is all important in just a minute because it all is reflected in the whole great work and the Philosopher's Stone and everything. And then there's the physical world, this experienced world that we exist in, right? So Zeus the head, Zeus the middle, and Zeus the all in all. So Zeus is this source. He's also manifesting as all these spirits that are creating things, including us, right? The universe peoples. The intelligence of the universe creates people as intelligent as we are. You know, this is at least as intelligent as God is, right? Hopefully better, hopefully smarter than us. I mean, it can't be much worse, right? But anyway, so the head thinks of things that the spirits manifest and materialize them into the material world, which is also Zeus. Zeus the head, Zeus the middle, Zeus the all in all. Zeus to Panto Krator, the all in all. He is all of this, the creator of everything, the source of everything, but he's also this created world. And in the Dervani manuscript, it says he swallowed this generative force source of the universe, the phallic source of creation. It's basically the Shiva, right? This is the lingam of Shiva, right? He swallows this and becomes the source of creation. He immediately destroys everything. It's consumed into him and becomes part of him. He expresses it out again, first as all the other gods and spirits, and then also as the mountains and the trees and the streams. And on his shoulders, out of his shoulders, came forth the gods and the spirits and all the lovely things, right? And all this material world. So it's all him. And we see reflections of this in the Bible, right? If you go to the New Testament, in Acts, I think it's chapter 17, Paul is talking about to the Athenians, I think it was, and he references a poet that said about Zeus, You are the source of all. You're our source of everything. And then it's where he goes on to say, in whom we live, in him we live and move and have our being. And he's making this analogy of Zeus, right? And saying that you understand Zeus as all in all, as everywhere, because it was common knowledge. This mystery cult thing, the Orphic tradition, was common in Paul's day, 300 AD, or I'm sorry, I guess Paul was like 65 AD, right? So in the first century AD, after Christ, in the first through the third centuries AD, the Orphic tradition was not dead yet, and it was alive and well at 450 BC, but 700 years later, it was still around. And Paul was experiencing it about 500 years later. And Christianity was competing with Orphism for the minds and hearts of the people of the Middle East. So Paul was preaching about this, about how he's going to tell them about the Holy Spirit and Jesus Christ and all this stuff. But he uses the analogy of Zeus from the Orphic traditions to explain how, to make that analogy of how we are in God, because it was a concept that they understood already, that we are in and of and part of God. This was common knowledge once upon a time, the Orphic mystery that Zeus is all in all, that everything that is part of this constantly emerging panentheistic deity that was part of our daily lives as human beings back in the day, before Christianity came along, before monotheism reared up its ugly head. And it's a form of monotheism, right? I mean, it's panentheism, but it doesn't deny the existence of other gods, and it explains them in ways that, and like, this is something that bothers me quite a bit. I often get accused of representing Neoplatonic stuff, because when I first started out, I was very into Neoplatonism. I was coming out of Christianity. Neoplatonism was just like Christianity, or close enough to where I felt comfortable with it. I understood the concepts, and I've moved on from there to this panentheistic emergent consciousness model of existence now, to where I understand deity as being present and progressively part of our experience, that we are God. Like when Crowley says, there is no part of me that is not of the gods. When Crowley says in Liber Oz, there is no God but man, right? What he's talking about is that everything that is God is represented in human beings. Human beings are very much God, and our experience of God is never going to be more than our experience of ourselves, right? And if you look at Agrippa goes on to say, whosoever therefore shall know themselves shall know all things in themselves. Crowley is summarizing this, right? This is the essence of Agrippa's philosophy of how human beings can ascend, transcend, and unify with their deity, their deistic, their godlike nature, understand their God consciousness through knowing themselves. This is the path of the great work according to Agrippa and the 3 books of occult philosophy. This is 16th century cutting edge fucking spiritual transformative knowledge, right? And while their science was bad, their spiritual understanding of the transformation of the soul is 100% accurate and effective to this day, and it can be used to create a wonderful experience for ourselves, which is it's wrapped up in these metaphors, it's wrapped up in these symbols of their times. We have Illuminism. I'm all about Illuminism. I'm all about this eye that is observing things. That's Zeus. Zeus is experiencing himself through us, right? I'm all about this Illuministic thing. It is a Rosicrucian belief. It comes from the Fama Fraternitatis. We'll be talking about that today. It comes from the whole Illuministic revelation of the 15th century, right? The whole time when all this stuff was coming into being in the West. It came out of Illuminism, or the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, this outpouring of knowledge and information that returned to Europe from Constantinople after the Turks overthrew it. When Constantinople became Istanbul, that's nobody's business but the Turks, right? Well, it's our business because it's kicked off our Enlightenment. It kicked off Illumination and Illuminism. We got the Corpus Hermeticum. We got the Corpus Hermeticum. That's where all this came from. Was we realized that Hermetics and magic actually taught that we become part of God. We were part of God. We came from God. We came out of the mind of God through his holy word, and we were expressed into being, and we descended through the heavens, received these heavenly powers, got bored, forgot about it, had to ascend back up to it, and when we did, we returned to God consciousness, and in that moment we were able to create the universe because we were created in God's image, right? That's what all this stuff is about. It's about reclaiming that entitlement that you have to be a creator God. This is entitlement philosophy. This is crowned and conquering child, is how Crowley put it, right? This is crown of creation, is how J. Stratton Kent would put it when he was railing against it, right? This is the philosophy that human beings are the epitome of the intelligence in this part of the universe that expresses itself as creation. How arrogant, right? I don't believe that. I think that if you look at orcas and dolphins and whales, for example, my dog, for example, my cat, for example, the trees, the mushrooms, the bees, everything is alive. Everything is conscious. Everything is deity. It's not just human beings. We aren't the crown of creation. Everything is part of this existence. We aren't what it's all about. It's not all about us. That doesn't mean that everything Agrippa said isn't true about how to attain our power as creative aspects of this all thing. We have power to do stuff in this world that dolphins can't do, that orcas aren't interested in, that dogs will never do. Human beings are a separate part of this consciousness that expresses as human beings to be human beings. We express this consciousness through ourselves to create this experience. And our understanding of it starts at our birth and ends at our death. And within that experience, we are able to influence every part of it through our choices. We don't control it all. It's not like everything is projected according to my will. Maybe. Until after we get sort of cleaned up a little bit and understand how to do that. But eventually, in theory, you get to a point where you are experiencing everything you're projecting into this world because you are consciously aware of what God wants for you, because you are experiencing God, because God is this little eyeball looking through your brain, through your eyes, through your personality, through your choices. He is manifesting your experience so that he can watch it and observe it, right? That God is inside of us. There is no God but man, according to Crowley, right? This is it. This is what we got. We have the power of the seven spheres, according to the Corpus Hermeticum. We're made in God's image, according to the Bible. We're creator gods, right? Anyway, we'll get into more of that in a minute. But anyway, we have this ability to, hey, how's it going, RC? How's it going? But yeah, we have this ability to connect to this infinite deity through this understanding of God being unified, and being unified right now in my breath and in your breath and in your eyes and my voice and your ears. We're all part of this right now, right? This is deity. This is consciousness. This is God. This is Zeus, the all in all of us right now. And we're projecting it through our consciousness, through our personalities, and we're experiencing it through our senses. And that's it. This is God right now. This is great. This is what we're doing it for, right? Anyway, so that's what this is useful for, right? That's what our goal is in all of this. So anyway, today we're going to look at the Philosopher's Stone. So the Philosopher's Stone is what alchemists use to sort of wrap up this idea, right? This idea of the great work is to ascend through the seven spheres. I guess, like in the Corpus Hermeticum, it talks about you descend through the seven spheres and you ascend back up and you remember who you are and where you came from, and you get back your powers from the seven archangels of the spheres, or the seven gods of the planets, or whatever, however your initiatory process is. You return to your position of authority and power and grace, and you are empowered and you're wise because you understand the ways of God, and you come back and you create your world, right? You've clarified your lenses. Do you have to do it the good way? Do you have to do it like in this way that is like self-help and no, you don't have to fix anything. You can clarify your lenses and use your power for evil as much as you want to, if you want to. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm talking about the right way to do things and the good way to do things, because that's what I want people to do, because I want to experience a good world. I don't want to experience an evil world. I think it sucks. There's plenty of evil. You don't have to try hard to be evil. It's easy. We can do better, though. It's more fun to have more fun, in my opinion. So anyway, the Philosopher's Stone symbolizes this whole process of returning to heavens and coming back and creating your world. And we're going to look at that in a little bit more detail in the, let me pull it up here, the Rosarium. Okay, the Rosarium. Okay. All right, so I'm going to be referencing this. I'm not going to show this through the whole thing because it's too small to read, frankly. But this is all on Adam McLean's site. I'm going to emphasize, once again, that everything that I've learned or studied or whatever is all on the internet. Most of it's free. I have some stuff I've researched on academia.edu that costs $20 a month. I spend more than that on Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and whatnot. So I mean, it's all very affordable. I think if we are honest with ourselves, we could very easily get ourselves access to all this stuff. The reason I'm pointing out that it's free is because one of the things that the Rosicrucians teach is that that what they will do is heal the sick, and that for free. That's their first oath, is that they're going to do all this stuff for free. And you know, and in modern times we can't really afford all that, you know. Let's see, Salt of Earth. I am told that there are 3 Philosopher's Stone: the mineral metallic for gold, and the gold-based stone for healing, and stone for the plant key to the visionary, lastly the human-based stone. Yeah, we'll get a little bit to that in just a little bit. Yes, absolutely. You're spot on, accurate there. Salt of the Earth. I think there's that's one interpretation of it, but it's not like we won't get into that particular interpretation of it because I haven't been trained in any of that. But yes, you're on the right track for sure, in my opinion. But the whole thing about all this stuff, the reason I'm presenting all this stuff, all the information and my sources and where I get it for free, is because I want more people to understand that the things that I charge for, like my classes and stuff, it's a condensed version of all my research, but all my sources are out there, and you can totally do this on your own. Absolutely go out and study it for yourself and check out your source materials for yourself, because my interpretation of them is my interpretation based on my experiences, and you need to establish yourself as your center of your existence, and you need to understand all of this occult crap from your perspective as it relates to you. Okay, that's what all of this is about, is your personality, your experience, your manifestation of Zeus for you in your life. My understanding of it is great for me, and I'm thrilled with it. I'm in love with myself. I think I'm great because, I mean, who else am I going to know? I'm not going to know anybody as cool as me, because I'm never going to know anybody as much as me, you know? My wife is my second most coolest person in the world, and I would probably think she was cooler than me if I could understand her better, but there are limits to what we can know about one another as individuated human beings, and I've embraced myself, right? So I know I'm cool. I'm happy with what I am now. What I don't like about myself, I try to change. I think that's great, but my path isn't going to work for you. You've got your own crap to deal with, and what I had to deal with isn't going to be the same crap as you. So you have to deal with your crap. Take my advice if you want, but check out these resources and apply them to your own life. Filter them through your own experiences and find your own truth. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, this is Adam McLean's website. The link is in the comments. This is the alchemywebsite.com, rosary1.html. Super easy to find this stuff. Alchemy website and esotericarchives.com are your primary resources for almost everything Western mystery tradition that you want for free. Everything that you need to understand is there. And Joseph Peterson has great notes. Adam McLean has great notes. Both of these people are on Facebook. If you get to be friends with them, you can probably get to talk to them, and they will tell you cool stuff because they're scholars and they are interested in this stuff. But you know, they have real lives too. So, all right. So, anyway, free resources. So, getting into this, one of the first things it talks about here is, first we must note that all men which work beyond nature are deceivers and work in an unlawful manner, right? And again, it says all men laboring beyond nature are deceivers and deceived. So one of the first things that the Philosopher's Stone, when it talks about here, is that it's not beyond nature. It's not supernatural. Okay, so one of the first things that I want to talk about today is that this stone, right? It represents the highest state of our alchemical lessons, right? Alchemy is supposed to be the transformation of the self to the creation of these purified things. The gold is like the ripened form of the potential of goodness, right? And we're hastening this transformation and this purification so that we can create the gold thing with our philosopher's stone. But alchemy is about making this philosopher's stone, right? But anyway, I want to talk about what it is, right? And it is in the Fama Fraternitatis, it's, or Confessio, I don't know, I think it's Fama, but in the Fama I think it is. It talks about what this stone is, what this ruby stone is, and it talks about it. So I wanted to touch on that so that we understand sort of where within the Rosicrucian stuff, Illuminist stuff, this all kind of fits. So according to them, the stone is the right kingly ruby and most excellent shining carbuncle, of which it is said that he doth shine and give light in darkness, and to be a perfect medicine of all imperfect bodies, and to change them into the best gold, and to cure all diseases of men, easing them of all pains and miseries, right? So this stone, according to the Rosicrucian people anyway, what it's supposed to do is be the perfect medicine, the panacea, right, for all imperfect bodies. It heals all of our bodies. It heals all of our minds. It heals melancholy. If you get into some of the other, like the chemical romance of Christian Rosenkreutz and some of the other alchemical texts, you find, all right, you find that there's a lot of symptoms of what we would today call ADHD or melancholia or depression or other types of mental illness are being treated with this philosopher's stone. And what they did was they would find these cures that grind them up and mix them with water, and that would heal these people. And the symptoms that they would heal them of were ignorance, stasis, inability to move, inability to accomplish anything, stagnation, and indolence, right? These are all the things that this would cure. And what it would do is it would bring balance to your forces, right? It would balance out your humors, right? So if you had too much, if you're too choleric, it would balance it out. Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, mostly plant-based. Or I'm sorry. Thank you, Daryl, for putting in those names. Did they ever mention something resembling bipolar? No, but I certainly have experienced quite a bit of that myself. So, anyway, the approach to all this stuff was to accomplish the great work and develop this philosopher's stone to bring this healing and this cure. So the goal of it was to create this physical stone, right? But is it physical or not, right? I mean, a lot of these things that we get into are spiritual, they are mental, and they are physical, right? So when we create, let me start over here. If you look at the great work as an esoteric interpretation of the alchemical process of transforming base materials into gold, and you say, okay, it's this esoteric thing that is spiritually transforming me to purify me so that I can become more efficient, more knowledgeable, and more empowered to accomplish my will on earth, right? So that's sort of like what the great work is esoterically and magically speaking, right? There's that aspect of it, but then there's also the magic that you do to your material world for wealth and health and actually healing yourself, right? There's a physical part of magic where you create wealth and prosperity for yourself and others, where you create these healing talismans that you put on growths and hope that it works. And sometimes it does. It works miraculously to cure you, right? You've got these things that you create in the physical world that are physically changing your experienced reality out in Zeus Hopantocrator, right? The Zeus, the all in all out there, the created world is going to materialize your changes. But there's also these changes that are going on internally. There's this esoteric thing that's where you're learning and you're being initiated into the seven spheres, and you understand that the things that were going on with your parents as a child have have created patterns that you continue to manifest in your life, right? When you start to realize that you're going through these processes and cleansing that out as well as you're creating these physical things, like you start creating these physical stones and whatnot, and you start to go through these observational processes, and you see like there's an alchemical process where you basically you take a frog and you watch it decay, right? And you create a special container for it, and you create a special situation for it, and you enclose it and you seal it, and you watch this frog decay, and based on the types of mold and whatnot that come out of it, you go through a transformation process as well, right? And at the end of it, you're transformed as an alchemist, and you've created a thing, like in this gross, disgusting thing. You've got some stuff that you're going to do some stuff with, but your spiritual transformation, never having touched any of that stuff, has already been completed. Jean Dubuis has a transformation of the self, an alchemical process is based on astrology. You create these talismans at certain times, and you place them in your apartment, basically your house, and you sit under the rays of these talismans, and it creates a change in you, this internal process, right? So there's these physical things that create these mental changes, these internal changes, these spiritual changes, and then they open up these gateways to this spiritual truth and the spiritual power and understanding of your connectedness to the forces of Venus and Mars, or the forces that we say express themselves as Saturn, right? We connect to those powers, to this deistic, this theurgic power to change and create all these other things. It's happening on 3 different levels, is what I'm trying to say, right? It's not just a physical stone that we're creating, right? And I'm not the first person to say this. This is right out of the Rosarium, right? So we're going to go back to, first we must note that all men which work beyond nature are deceivers and work in an unlawful manner. Everything that we do as magicians needs to have a real world aspect to it. Anybody who doesn't say, this magic that I'm doing is going to create this practical result in my life, is full of bullshit every time. Okay? That's not me saying that. These are the authors of the Rosarium. All men which work beyond nature are deceivers and work in an unlawful manner. Okay, this isn't new news to us, all right? We've had charlatans the whole time, okay? If you're doing something that is just for spiritual reasons and never has a material impact, great, but don't pretend like it's the work. It's not. It's entirely in your head. If you're not changing your life physically, materially, in accordance with your will as a result of your magical operations, you're just delusional, all right? I was talking to Clifford Hartley Lowe about something the other day, and he's right about this. There should be a practical result to your magic, otherwise it's all up in your head. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you can't get to that practical level through purely spiritual or even purely mental operations, if they eventually touch on the other 2 aspects of things. So anyway, anybody that pretends to work beyond nature is deceiving themselves and others, right? Furthermore, of man nothing is born but man, and of a brute beast nothing but a brute beast. And every like bringeth forth nothing but his like. Wherefore he which have not of his own cannot at his pleasure have another man's. All right, it gets a little confusing because I have a hard time keeping up with all that ancient. It's not that ancient, but I have a hard time with reading comprehension skills. But I mean, there at the beginning is pretty obvious. Man, of man, nothing is born but man, right? We can't create something that's not of ourselves. This is part of the you can't create anything that you can't put down with magic. We aren't going to create something in this world that we can't undo with magic. I've seen a lot of people pretend like we can, but these people are Chicken Littles. They're yelling about the sky falling, saying that they can create something that's so big that they can't put it down. And they say this, but they don't do it. They threaten you with fears that don't manifest because they want to control you and keep you from doing things. That's how people are. Fuck them. All right. You can't do that. You can't create more than what you can create. You can't create something you can't take care of. You can't ruin anything that you can't fix. All right, you're not superhuman that way. We're all human, but we're incredible what we can do. But we have power and authority over our experiences. That's part of what this whole illuministic thing is all about. It's the religion of entitlement. It's about understanding that we are entitled to the creation and experience of creation as manifested human beings, regardless of race, colors, creed, background, religion, what you were born to. None of that should matter, but we should be able to get here through reason and experience, study, rationality, and experience. We should be able to figure this crap out. Every human being should be able to figure out who we are in relation to our source and what that means to our experience in this existence. That's fair, right? That's what we're entitled to in this existence. We're entitled to be able to figure it out so that we can create what we experience to a degree. I'm not saying we get to control everything and everybody else. We have limits to what we can experience, but we can influence every goddamn aspect of every minute of our lives through our spiritual contacts if we understand ourselves, right? If we understand how we relate to these other forces that are at play in our universe, our interconnectedness, right? Nothing that we create is going to be not of ourselves, right? Of a brute beast, nothing but a brute beast, and every like bringeth forth nothing but his like. You get fig trees from a fig. You get figs from a fig tree. You get apples from an apple tree. You get intelligent life in the universe and an intelligent universe. You get manifestations of Zeus. This is what we look like. This is what Zeus looks like, guys. Everybody. Us. We're what Zeus looks like. We're what Zeus the all-in-all is like. Is it enlightened? No, the fuck it isn't. So what do we do about that? We try to improve it. We try, for God's sake, to make it better. That's what I do. I mean, that's what I choose to do because I believe that's what Zeus wants me to do, because I believe what I want matters to that, and I think that matters. So anyway, yeah. So you can't have another person's pleasure for yourself is what this is saying. That part where earlier I was saying I couldn't understand it. I understand it. You can't have anybody else's experience. You get your own experience. You don't get anybody else's pleasure, and nobody else gets your pleasure, right? It's us. We get what we get, and we build what we build, right? This is what the power of the Philosopher's Stone was supposed to be about. It's about creating your world, right? And understanding that this is true. And this is not something that was true for these people when they were saying it. This is something that they created for themselves, or tried to create a world where we could experience it today, right? You fast forward a few hundred years, and what do we have? We have people taking over the United States, what is currently the United States. We took it over after we killed most of the population here with poisons and illnesses. Took it over, and these colonial colonists tried to set up an illuminist nation, right? These crazy illuminists tried to set up a place where people could pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice, of happiness, right? You know, these were the things that you know, this Rosicrucian movement back in the 1500s, this expression of this Hermetic ideal is impacting us to this very day, right? These Orphic mystery traditions formed the Senate of Rome. You know how many men today are still thinking about Rome? Rome is everywhere with us today. The Orphic mysteries are part of this. If we tap into this knowledge and understanding, we get connected to it all, to everything we're experiencing as a human tribe that goes back for thousands of years, that we're still manifesting. It's gross, it's ugly, it's painful to a lot of people. It's not fucking fair, right? But we understand how it works, and we can use it to have an experience that's better for us and the people who are suffering today, because we understand how it works. We can make a difference. Anyway, why do we talk about this stuff? Why do we talk about this? According to the Rosary, the Rosarium, we speak this so that no man should let his money go from him. This is so you don't be poor anymore. Don't spend your money on this shit. That's why I'm telling you that all this stuff is free. don't spend your money on this stuff, is what they're saying. That's why I charge $25 for the stuff I do, because yeah, you know, it's a pittance compared to what, hopefully compared to what you can get for it, because you're not supposed to, you shouldn't have to spend your money on this. All right, this is one of the key things about the great work in the Philosopher's Stone. It's available to the poor and it's available to the rich, because we are all equal in this, right? And in fact, there are people who say that a rich person is not going to be able to do this because it's going to ruin them, and a poor person doesn't need the Philosopher's Stone because they already understand, right? So there's all kinds of ways of looking at this. But anyway, I'm gonna skip ahead, because I will go over every sentence in this if I'm not careful. Anyway, the point is it's not necessarily a real thing, is what I wanted to get to. It's a three-part thing. It has a physical stone that you create, a mental piece that is developed, a knowledge, an understanding, the generative forces of it, and a spiritual piece that is connecting you to this divine essence. It's not necessarily, though, a stone. One of the next things I want to talk about over in over here, over in the Rosarium. Let's see. All right, so I'm not going to get too deep into all this, because this is just the first part of many, but just on this one page. All right, I'm going to start here. This is Gratianus, right? So it says, take this and do thus and thus, and you shall have this, and this is a common thing among all philosophers. So they're talking about the stone and how the stone is created. So if you read the instructions on how to create the Philosopher's Stone, it talks about take this, and you do this with it, and you do this with it. So you take your raw ore, and you purify it, and you heat it, and you do this, and then you'll have this. This is a common thing among philosophers, whereupon the philosopher says the first word, take this, take that, take this. But as soon as they start saying this, according to the Rosarium, they have made many errors, right? Therefore, the first work is dissolve the matter of the stone. That is not common mercury. This is not physical. These are spiritual and mental concepts as well as physical, okay? We have to understand that it's not just a stone that we're talking about. We're talking about an understanding, a approach to existence that is of a triple nature, okay? It talks about fools understanding the sayings of the philosophers according to the letter do find out no truth. Okay, how many people know people who can quote philosophers verbatim? Really intelligent people who've studied the great philosophers, who know so much more than I ever will. You know, I hear them speak about these things, and they have a quote for every situation, and their lives are shit. Their lives are going to crap. You know, they're just ruining things with their choices every day. And they've got nothing to show for any amount of joy for themselves, but they have a very bitter set of philosophers to refer to that justify all this stuff, you know? Like, what's the point of understanding it and not understanding the truth of your life? The truth of life is that we're here to enjoy it. We're here to experience it and observe it and take pleasure out of this moment, to have a good time. There are people who will argue with me about that, and I think that's because you don't understand. It's sad that people don't understand that, but it's pretty easy to have a good time. But yeah, so anyway, people will try all this stuff. It goes on to say, all right, they say it is a false science because they have tried it and found nothing, and then they become as men desperate, condemning the science and just praising the books thereof, and therefore the science maketh small account of them, right? So if you've ever seen people who've tried an alchemical formula physically and said it doesn't work, right, and haven't had any transformation, it's like the people who understand the philosophy word for word and letter for letter, but they don't have any truth of it. They don't have any love in their life to show for it. They don't have that experience of enlightened or illuminated transcendence, right? Because everything is going their way, and they're making the world a better place because they're fulfilled, right? And they're happy with what they're doing. Yeah, okay. Our science of the secrets of nature hath no enemy but the ignorant. And according to these verses, the following: this stone is had in small regard with men of slender wit, but yet the wise of learned sort make great account of it. So the truth of the Philosopher's Stone is something that the very wise among us, and if you look at it in a culture, we have a lot of very intelligent, very wise people who understand things about Kabbalah and the Tree of Life and ceremonial magic, or Hecate, or the Greek magical papyri, or the Orphism, or the hymns, or whatever, we have amazing people who will look at this basic truth that everything is one thing. All is one. And they will scoff at it. And they won't understand it. They'll take it for granted. And they'll move on because it doesn't apply. It doesn't apply. Oh, okay, we're all one thing. It doesn't apply. We don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to us. That hurts. Like all of our suffering comes from this disconnectedness to ourselves. It's painful, but it's not for that. Okay, it's a stone that brings peace and healing to people who can see past the smallness of the things that they don't understand, right? Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's small. Give it a minute to wonder about it and embrace it and have a moment of awe. Because in the moment where you have a moment of awe over the most simple of things, you have a connection to the divine that is unimaginable. It's unimaginable. So know this, that God hath not ordained the stone, of which this great secret entreateth to be bought for a great price. It's not expensive to make this, for it is found out being cast in the way, and may as well be had of a poor man as of a rich man. It's not a physical thing that you can buy at a jeweler's store versus something you find in the street. It can be had by a poor man or a rich man, that every man may come unto it by reason and by knowledge. This is the method. Reason and knowledge is how we find the Philosopher's Stone. Okay, that's what it's about. This isn't just magic, it's mysticism. Okay, you have to understand that this Philosopher's Stone, there's a physical stone that can heal people from illnesses. I work in big pharma. We have physical stones. Bags of powder come in that have been processed, and they get transformed into other powders with other powders, and it cures cancer. At the end of the day, it does amazing things. We can create a physical stone that cures cancer. It's amazing. There's a physical stone. But what we're talking about here in the Rosarium is not that. It's spiritual. It's mental. It's holistic. It is not something that is just a stone. Okay? It's something that is beyond that. It brings health and wealth. It turns the unknoble into the noble. Gold is the potential of things made ripe, ready to be plucked. It's the goodness of things essentially brought forth. The stone makes things ripen. Like if you think of a piece of corn growing on a plant, the Philosopher's Stone, when it's presented to the plant, will make it ripen and grow and be healthy and ready to eat, right? That's what the stone can do. Otherwise, it's just going to grow on its own. The stone is in the growing of the corn by itself. The stone is also what makes it happen in unforeseen ways, right? So this Philosopher's Stone isn't just a physical thing. It's not just the talisman that we make to, like I've got this talisman for health and healing here, right? This is not the Philosopher's Stone, right? The Philosopher's Stone is my knowledge of the need for healing, my knowledge of the symbols to use to make the healing thing, my knowledge of the spirits to contact, to call on the spirits, the making of this talisman, the physical talisman in the right hour out of the right materials. Those are the Philosopher's Stone, right? It's the three in one that's being unified to create this one thing, right? And it brings health and wealth, right? These are the points of what the Philosopher's Stone does. It brings health to the sick. It heals the things that are broken in you. What's broken in you? Okay, you've got a physical body that has some ailments, right? Most of the time we can work around it and work through it. Some of it we can appease with talismans like this, you know, that bring healing to our specific injuries. But some things it can't fix, right? You don't get your foot doesn't grow back right now. Maybe someday, maybe eventually it does. But right now it doesn't grow back if you've lost your foot. It's not fair, it's not cool. So what does the panacea do if it can cure everything and it can't cure your foot? It can't cure your foot. So what is it then? If it's really a panacea, it cures the pain from the foot. It cures the pain of not having the foot. It cures the loss. The thing that was causing your experience of your life between your birth and your death, you know, that painfulness of that not having a foot goes away, and it's replaced by something that is joyful and positive instead. It's transformed. The power of the Philosopher's Stone is transformation. It ripens the corn on the vine. It makes the lead into gold. It takes the intrinsic gold within the lead or whatever base material it is, and it draws it out by purifying it, by rectifying it, by tearing it apart into its intrinsic pieces, revealing its deistic, natural, theological, godlike gold, and then letting that ripen up without all the dross stopping it from coming into being. That's what the Philosopher's Stone does. It brings out the inner wealth and health of whatever it's healing, right? That's what it does. It just brings out what is good inside. I don't know. Anyway, Anyway, the point is that what it does is it does this by combining the deistic, theological, whatever, that godlike essence, the demiurge Zeusness of the thing, right? Tears down all the negative things around it and then makes room for it to be pure in the physical world. It's the head, the middle, and the all in all again, right? It's that three-part way of looking at things: the mercury, the salt, and the sulfur. Right? It's all right. So look at the Philosopher's Stone with the thought. Who was it? Who was it that said that earlier? Mostly plant-based, was it? Salt of the earth. Salt of the earth said earlier, the mineral metallic stones for gold making, and the gold, there's different stones. There are three different Philosopher's Stones, right? There's the animal stone, the vegetable stone, and the mineral stone. And in the Rosarium, it talks about how you make all three of those, and then you combine them to create the Philosopher's Stone, the fourth stone, right? And this fourth stone is created out of these three parts. This three-part trinity is what I want to talk about next. So the three-part trinity of these three stones, the animal, vegetable, and mineral. The animal stone, it's not like animal like dogs, cats, and squirrels and fish. It's not animal, it's anima. It is the spirit part of it, the God part of it, the essence of it. That anima is the animal part, or the animal stone. It represents the head, Zeus the head, the Godheadness, the demiurgic source idea of a thing before it comes into being. That's the animal stone. The vegetable stone, vegetative. It is vegetative. It's generative. It is the generative aspect of all things. The vegetable stone is the aspect of any item that makes it come into being. All right, it's the mitochondria of the cell that is transforming the raw materials into life itself and the experience thereof. Right? It's the electricity inside your cells that are processing the inputs and the outputs of your invisible self that's functioning through your brain to manifest and experience this existence. That's the generative portion. All right, and the Dervani manuscript, that's Zeus the middle. The gods and the spirits and the angels and the personalities of the human beings and the souls and all the invisible things that are not made manifest. That's the middle, the generative. The vegetative stone is the purification of that part of yourself. Right? The mineral stone is the physical, the actual material stone, your body. You know, people go to vegan extremes to keep their bodies pure for these spiritual purposes. I don't think it's necessary. I think everything is pure. Everything is what it is, and you put the parts together that you want to have in your experience, right? So do you need to eat tofu for your whole life? No, but maybe you need to eat it for a couple of weeks if you want a specific experience that you have to have tofu for. Duh, you know. I mean, it's not rocket science here on Earth. We understand that most of our physical mineral stones are chemical soups. You know, if you have a mental illness because you have a mental trauma, psychological trauma that has changed your neuropathways in your brain, so that when you experience a certain social situation that isn't even fucking real, you're going to have a fight or flight experience like you're looking at a goddamn tiger. If you have that for the rest of your life to deal with, you can take a pill that changes your brain soup so that you can experience things in a different way. Right? We have the physical stones to manipulate this material world and our experience of it. But what the Philosopher's Stone is this combination of the purification of all three of these things. This holy trinity of the three-part experience. It's not even, it's more than, the experience is only a third of it. The idea of the experience is a third of it. The forces of creating and maintaining the experience are the other third of it. Right? That's what this is all about. The Philosopher's Stone is understanding that we are all three of those things at once. We are God in the moment, thinking it, being it, making it happen, and experiencing it all the time. Whether you want to or not, we are the three stones in one. Right? And what this process does, what the great work does, is it strips down all the crap so that we can just experience that without fear or trepidation, without concern about stepping on other people's toes, without stutter stepping the whole way, understanding the timing of things, knowing that I have to wait, 8 more days for X, Y, and Z. I have to wait until I can do the next step because I have to. I can't speed that up, right? Understanding that is what it's all about. The three parts have to be purified and then brought together to create the stone. You have to understand who you are as a god before you manifest. How do you do that? You disassociate, people. It's not hard. You disassociate really hard, okay? There's hypnosis for that. There's drugs for that. There's meditative processes for that. And you shut down your amygdala and you shut the fuck up. And you listen. And that's how you get in touch with God. Okay, you purify that. It takes a long time or it takes a short time. It takes as long as it takes. But that's your animal stone. You purify that in your daily practice with your mantra, Om Gam Ganam Pateya Namaha. Right? You say that crap. Gate Gate Par Gate Parsam Gate Bodhisvaha. You do that. You get out of the way. You let that anima, God-like self be itself, and you just let it be itself. And you become aware of that. You disassociate the fuck out of your life until you're not experiencing your life anymore. You're looking at it because you're just an eyeball looking at everything. That's you. You disassociate so hard until you understand that that's you. That's a lot of fucking spiritual work. Okay? That's all the work leading up to your holy guardian angel experience for sure. That's all the work I did on my knees to pray into the Holy Spirit when I was a Pentecostal. All right? This is hard fucking work to get to that point where you'll shut the fuck up. It's hard. Okay, but that's the first part, the animal stone. That's 1/3 of it, right? The generative stone, right? I call it the rebel orphan stage, right? You're generating your ability to generate your life. What power do you have to create your experience right now? How much of your life do you spend reacting and responding to other people? Who tells you what to do Monday through Friday? Your kids? Your dog? My dog runs my life, right? I mean, hey, I have to clean up the mess if I don't take care of the dog because I chose the dog, but I react to my other things. How much power do you have over your life? The seven spheres are about understanding the forces that go into your life in metaphors so you can understand how your day-to-day experience is being affected by your choices in these 7 areas of your life. Okay, your foundation. What is the foundation of your life? That's Saturn. What's your start and end time? Birth and death. That's number 1. That's your foundation of your entire experience on life. What's your initiation into that? How do you understand that to be? How much time you got left? How does that impact your choices? Right? Purify that shit and understand it, and you've taken a step towards the vegetable stone, because the vegetative step are the forces of creation that influence your experience. The 7 spheres are progressive initiations into materializing your experiences. Okay? That's the purification of the vegetative stone. Right? That's just the vegetative stone. But guess what you can do when you have purified your animal stone and you've purified your vegetative stone? Everything in the mineral state, the physical world, will bend to the manifestation of the idea of God with the power of the 7 forces of creation and the 4 elemental fucking kings. Your mineral stone will be purified as you purify the inner state. Okay, and what does that look like? It looks like you have everything you need to do everything you want to make life better for yourself and your kids, and to have everybody have a good time around you and show the way to make it better for other people. The point of Rosicrucianism, of Illuminism, is to save the world for everybody. That's what we're trying to do, because we're entitled to something better. We deserve something better than what we've built for ourselves in our ignorance of ourselves. Okay? The secret of Rosicrucian and Illuminism is that, we're creating our lives where we could be if we weren't shackled by our beliefs and our inhibitions. Okay? We purify this material world by purifying our other 2 stones. And when we can do that, we hit the next phase. And that's when you can make the 4th stone. After you've purified your animal stone and your vegetative stone and your mineral stone, after you're not worried about your fucking rent and your bills and your internet connection, after you're not worried about that anymore because those things are taken care of, after your mineral sphere is purified too, then you've got the luxury time to create this 4th stone, the Philosopher stone, out of the 3 purified stones. And that is how you save the rest of the world. You grind that up and you purify the rest of the world. You bring the golden, godlike nature of other human beings to the forefront. That is the progression of the great work in the Philosopher's Stone. That's what it's about, right? And what does the Philosopher's Stone heal? It heals your ignorance of your unity with everything else. That's the Orphic mystery tradition, is that everything is one thing. Okay? I don't care if Hecate is your god and you understand everything is Hecate's womb being made manifest, or she's the womb of everything. She's the world soul. Maybe she's the world soul. Maybe that's what your experience is. Great. I like Zeus. It's great for me. It can be Thor. It can be any god. You pursue God and you find that God becomes a gateway to every god. If you pursue a spirit of the Goetia. Do you remember Jake Stratton Kent had all those monographs of the Goetic spirits? When you pursue any aspect of deity, anything in that middle level, if you pursue it as if it was a representation of that divine essence, that holy consciousness that we're all a part of, if you pursue it with the honor, reverence, and respect that it deserves, that you are entitled to as well, if you pursue it with that, you find that it is the pathway to all things, right? The more into your local manifestations of deity you get, the more into all the manifestations of deity you get. It purifies everything, right? This thing that we're healing is our own ignorance. It's our ignorance of our unity, but also, and this is the most important part, it's our ignorance of our purpose, right? So why is this unity here? Why is it creating everything? To experience it, to learn, to grow. When we were children, we hurt ourselves and we learned from our mistakes not to do that anymore. Back in Hesiod, Hesiod said about Zeus that Zeus has decreed that wisdom comes from suffering. We learn from our mistakes. We're making mistakes today. Are we learning from them or not? Some people say we're doomed to repeat it, and oh, doom, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't think so. I think we're doing better than we used to. I think that every day is harder for a lot of ways, but we're better than we were. I'm better than I used to be. Every day I try to do a little bit better. I don't always make it, but I know that in 1974, when I was born, things were a lot different, and things are better today for me, for my mom, for my sister, for my dad, even though he's passed, right? All this stuff. The state of the world today is better than it was 50 years ago, you guys. I promise you that. It's going to be better in 50 years. There's going to be things that are terrible and things that are great. But you know what? We can keep making this dream that we're entitled to respect, dignity, and to be left alone to do what brings us happiness as long as we're not hurting anybody, right? We can marry who we want. As long as everybody's consensual, we can do what we want. Libertarians, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Don't hurt each other. Don't be a dick. We can have this idea and hold it up as a goal for everybody else, a light in the darkness. That this is that we're striving towards that, and we can do everything we can to make that happen. Because that light in extension is, it's the Argent Vive, right? I'm probably saying it wrong. Argent Vive, right? The title of today's thing, it's the first time I'm bringing it up. It's the living silver, right? The Argent Vive is the living silver. Within the Rosarium, it represents that liquid, divine, mental godness. The animal stone refers to the spiritual essence of things, right? The anima. The Argent Vive is the electric motion of that theistic deity that flows through everything. I like the Zeus construct as the metaphor for this entity because of the lightning bolt and the electricity in our cells, right? I love that my spine is an electric network, that my brain is this biological current. I think that's awesome. And I love the idea that all of creation and life and consciousness is expressed as a lightning bolt that continues across all of space and time, that continues within every cell of everything that's ever been, that the lightning in my skin is the lightning in the first cell that crawled out of or emerged from the soup. I love that feeling. I love that feeling of connectedness to my ancestors, just by breathing and thinking and changing my behavior. I think that's awesome. But that electricity is that mercury. It's this liquid silver. It's not the mercury. So in the Rosarium, it talks about the difference between the Argent Vive and the actual mercury. right? It says, where is it? Our stone is of an animal, of a vegetable, and of a mineral substance. Be thou therefore of one mind and opinion in the work of nature, and presume not to try this thing here and that thing another time, for our art is not affected with the multitude of things. Right? So it was saying, don't try to do this a bunch of different ways. Focus on one way of doing things. Focus on becoming one with everything. Focus on yourself and understanding that you are one in everything, and everything is one in you. And you'll find out that you are everything. Be patient in it, But it was saying, this is a different form of Mercury, and that this form of Mercury is that divine matter itself, or that divine essence, that flow, that living Mercury, that living silver, that living flare of light within us, right? That's what purifies things. The Philosopher's Stone is used to ripen the pure and the noble, to bring about the transformation. Transformation is the power of the stone. The power of the stone is not health and wealth. The power of the stone is the transformation that it brings about through the application of this living silver, the ARGENT VIVE, the living silver of God in all of us is what spreads through and creates this transformation and brings about the ripening and the purification. And it's going to happen anyway. It's going to happen anyway, because that's the nature of things. But what the Philosopher's Stone does is it lets us hurry things along and speed things up and achieve that purification of the things. It's a pattern. It's a process. The Philosopher's Stone is a process. It's not a thing. All right. So it's the Mercury. It's inside all things. It's the source of all the rest. Everything is reliant on it to manifest. And, harmonies. So all of these things teach about harmonizing the elements, harmonizing the animal, the vegetable, and the mineral, harmonizing the head, the middle, and the all thing. Practically speaking, I was listening the other day to Om Namaha Shiva, right? Om Shiva Namaha. Om Shiva Namaha. It's just a mantra, and I was listening to it on Spotify, and over again, it's just Om Shivaya Namaha. Om Namaha Shivaya, right? And just over and over again. And Namaha means I bow down, right? Or get out of the way. I was thinking about it and what it means, right? And it's not I worship. It's not let me like in the Old Testament, in the Bible, and in my experiences with Jehovah, I've been awed by the power of God. I've been struck by the fear of God, the Pakad, right? And it's incredible, and I love it. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's beautiful in its own way. It's powerful. It's potent. But Namaha is not I bow down in worship. I bow down in awe and fear. It's I get out of the way. And it's not really, you're not doing anything like that in this moment. And this is the moment where you embrace the ARGENT VIVE, right? The ARGENT VIVE, or however you say it, that liquid silver. You embrace that inner godness when you realize that the self that you are is a manifestation of the self that you are. Right? So the self that you are is beyond this self, or the self of my wife, or the self of my dog, or the self of these trees around here in the Pacific Northwest, or the self of my job, the self that is the Pfizer Corporation. Myself includes all of those selves, and myself that I experience as Josh is part of that, right? So when I said earlier that the secret of purifying the animal stone is to purely disassociate from yourself, I'm talking about getting away from this Joshness of Josh to that other self that's beyond everything else. And once you get to that point, understanding that everything in between is part of that, and then Josh is part of that too, right? I bow down. Namaha is not I am not a part of this anymore, and everything is greater than me. It's everything is part of me, including me. But I recognize that I am part of something greater that is being manifested through me, for me. something greater that's manifesting through me for me. Right? So the key to the great work, the key to establishing and finding the Philosopher's Stone, the key to this is your daily practice of pursuing God. All right? If you pursue God every day on your own, you will find everything else is right there, and it has been the whole time. Everything is reflected within ourselves. It really is. The seven spheres are a model that we use to interact with this, but everything that we find through knowledge and the rational mind, okay? This is available to everybody, all right? This is not the idea that so a good friend of mine, BJ Swain, is very into witch blood, and I understand and appreciate all that stuff, but every once in a while somebody comes along and is like, only the people who are initiated are real witches. And it's true, but anybody can be initiated, and anybody can figure out their way to this deistic experience where you can materialize miraculous looking things through obviously natural means once you become aware of how nature works. You can do all that just by pursuing knowledge in a rational way and figuring it out. It's all there within ourselves. We have the blueprint. If it was you on a desert island and the stars and, sufficient time and food, you'd figure this out on your own if this was something that you wanted to do. All of this stuff is available for free because it's you finding out about you from you, right? It's Zeus the head, Zeus the middle, Zeus the all in all. The method of doing this is simply meditating on that. Om Shiva, right? I am God, right? Not I'm God. I'm not God. But there's part of God that's bigger than me, and it's coming through me right now. Meditate on that, Shut yourself up and then step out of the way and ask yourself who's looking, who's watching right now after my mind shuts up, right? That's who you're trying to experience. You get out of the way, you bow down, right? You bow down, you get out of the way just so you can listen to what's bigger than you. You pursue that in a daily way, and you find the essence of God in yourself. You experience it so that you can then start manifesting it for everybody else, so that you can share it, because you can't fill other people's cup if you're not filling up your own. Okay, and this lightning bolt that spreads throughout all of time and space and fills us up with power, is it filling us up with every moment right now to fill us up so that we can keep pushing this out to everybody else who's having a bad day, who's having a hard time of it right now, It's not, I'm not saying I'm great at it for everybody. I'm not here for everybody. I'm here for me. I'm here for my loved ones. I'm here for those people I can impact in a positive way. Everybody doesn't have a positive experience with me, and that's okay. I don't care. I'm not here for everybody. I'm here primarily for myself. But we can't help anybody if we don't help ourselves first, right? And take care of yourself so that you can help others. My kids would love to have a little bit of extra money every month. I can't give that to them until I'm making a little bit of extra money every month, right? Duh. Right? So I purify my mineral stone so that I can purify my vegetative stone, so that I can express that love financially to them, right? Because I want to take care of them, because I want them to have a better time, because they're important to me, because their essence, their animal self matters to me, right? So it's like all that stuff, you start to see this in a different way. And when you do, you start to realize that there's a harmony of everything. And what we're doing, when you get into the Dervani manuscript, it talks about how you're not doing magic and rituals and offerings to appease another spirit. You're doing it to create harmony within your sphere. That's all you're doing, is you're harmonizing this all thing by making offerings. It's additive and it's subtractive, and it's just to harmonize things. You're bringing the seven spheres into harmony. You're purifying your vegetative sphere so that your mineral and are all in harmony with your animal sphere. It's It's a metaphor, right? It's a metaphor that better have a practical result. You better be able to show that this is meaningful to yourself first, prove to yourself that what you're doing is not a waste of time in your bank account, in your love life, in your relationship with your family, in your relationship with your parents and where you came from and your history, your ancestors. Your ancestors are who you grew up with, you guys. It's not necessarily just your ghosts. It's not the influences that form the current that you're currently manifesting. It is, but it's not just that. It's also people in your life, right? What's your practical experience of life? How is this spiritual stuff transforming your day-to-day experience? Right, we're heading into the harvest season. Can't call it Thanksgiving anymore without hurting people's feelings. But at this time of the year, now until January, it's going to be a hard time for a lot of people who haven't gotten in touch with their emotions and their families' stuff, their own ancestor stuff that's out of harmony. It's going to be manifesting a lot of crap, right? So do your work now and prepare for that. Shields up, get all that stuff ready. Anyway, you guys, I kind of went off on a lot there. I wanted to talk a little bit about augmented reality versus virtual reality, but I'll save that for another talk. I'm going to go ahead and call it for now. It's 5:20. That's not too bad. Hour and 20 minutes. All right, let's see. I'm going to go over the notes here. Let's see. Did they ever mention something about resembling bipolar? There was not a lot of mention that I remember off the top of my head about bipolar stuff in the pharma or whatnot. But there is stuff that does sound a lot like the kind of stresses that we deal with to this very day. Being human has always been hard. If you look at the things that Aristotle and Plato and Plotinus and all those people had to deal with, like the things that they complain about, it's the same crap we complain about. It's not any different. And the guy that wrote the Dervani manuscript, he's sitting there complaining about other initiators doing it wrong. We've always gossiped about how the other magicians are screwing it up for everybody else. It's not new. we're all a bunch of bitches, and we always have been, apparently. Let's see. So, let's see. 1600s Bible quoters, sometimes clueless and miserable. Yes. Transformed by your spiritual experiences against your will. Yes, very much. Let's see. Emotional pain is cured. Finding joy in reality. Yes. Very good. Okay. All right. It sounds like everybody's very. All right. Cool. All right. It doesn't look like there's a lot of any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Do feel free to type them in. I'm going to go ahead and wrap some things up, though. And thank you very much for your time. I will see you again next week.